The massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. They came without warning, blocking out the sun over major cities across the planet. The ships were huge, each one the size of a small city, painted in dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself. High Commander Vexthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue planet below. He was tall, even for his species, with dark purple skin and 4 arms that ended in clawed hands. His yellow eyes studied the primitive world with obvious disgust. Behind him, dozens of his officers worked at glowing control panels, their faces showing the same contempt for the world they had found. "Another weak species?" Vexthara said to his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Crete. Look at them. They still burn fossil fuels. They fight wars with chemical explosives. They cannot even leave their own solar system without great effort. Crete nodded, his own purple skin lighter than his commander's. The scouts report they have only just begun to explore their nearest planet. They call it Mars, such a pathetic achievement for a species that has existed for thousands of years. "How many wars have they had?" Vexthara asked, pulling up data on his personal screen. "Hundreds, sir. They fight among themselves constantly. They seem to enjoy it, actually." "Very strange behavior." Vexthara laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Perfect. Another species that thinks it knows about war. We will show them what real war looks like." The Zephyrian Empire had conquered worlds for over 3,000 years. Their military had never lost a major battle. Their ships could destroy entire planets. Their warriors were trained from birth to fight and die for the Empire. They had faced species with better technology, larger armies, and more advanced weapons. All had fallen before the might of the Zephyrian fleet. "Send the declaration," Vexthara ordered. "Standard format. 30 rotations to surrender or face complete destruction." Down on Earth, the message arrived at exactly 10:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every government building, every military base, every major communication center on the planet received the same transmission at the same moment. The message was simple and clear, translated into every human language automatically by the alien technology. President Jake Morrison was in the middle of a budget meeting when his aide burst through the door. "Sir, we have a situation." "A big one." Jake looked up from his papers. He was a calm man in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been president for 3 years and had handled many crises, but nothing had prepared him for this. "What kind of situation, Carol?" "Aliens." "Sir, they're demanding our surrender." Within minutes, Jake was in the Situation Room beneath the White House. The room was filled with his top advisors, military leaders, and intelligence officials. Admiral Lisa Grant, head of Earth Space Command, was already there, studying data. "On multiple screens, what do we know?" Jake asked. Admiral Grant stood up. She was a sharp woman in her 40s, with short black hair and steel-gray eyes. "We have 12 massive ships in orbit. Each one is approximately 10 kilometers long. They appeared simultaneously over New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and 8 other major cities. No warning, no prior detection by our satellites." "That possible?" asked General P. Collins, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He was a big man with a thick mustache and a voice that commanded attention. "Their technology is far beyond ours," Grant replied. "They must have some kind of stealth system that our sensors cannot detect." Jake read the alien message on his tablet. "They want us to surrender in 30 rotations." "What's a rotation?" "Based on their transmission data, we think it's about 26 hours in our time," said Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the president's science advisor. She was a small woman with curly brown hair and thick glasses. "So we have about 32 days to respond." 32 days to surrender or be destroyed," Jake repeated. "Well, that's direct." "Sir," General Collins said, "our military analysis suggests resistance would be pointless. Their ships alone could probably destroy our entire planet. We've never seen technology like this. So we surrender?" Jake asked. The room fell silent. Every person there knew what surrender meant. Humanity would become slaves to an alien empire. Everything they had built, everything they had achieved, would be gone. There might be another option, Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. She pushed her glasses up her nose and cleared her throat. I've been studying their message. The language patterns, the cultural references, the way they structure their demands. These aliens are warriors. Everything about their communication suggests a military culture based on honor and strength. So? General Collins asked. So maybe we don't have to fight them the way they expect, she continued. Maybe we can find a different approach. Jake leaned forward. What are you thinking, Amy? What if we don't surrender, but we also don't fight a traditional war? What if we challenge them to something else entirely? Like what? Admiral Grant asked. I don't know yet. But think about it. They're expecting us to either give up or throw our military at them. They've probably seen that response 1,000 times. What if we do something they've never seen before? Jake thought about it. He had always believed that the best solutions came from thinking outside the box. What would that accomplish? It might buy us time, Dr. Rodriguez said. It might confuse them enough to give us a chance to learn more about them. And if we're really lucky, it might show them that humans are worth keeping around. General Collins shook his head. It's crazy. We're talking about an alien empire that has conquered worlds for thousands of years. They're not going to be interested in games. Maybe not, Jake said. But Amy's right about one thing. If we surrender, we lose everything. If we fight, we lose everything. So why not try something different? He stood up and walked to the window. Above them, somewhere in the sky, alien ships waited for humanity's response. Get me the Secretary General of the United Nations, he said, and call an emergency session. All member nations. We need to discuss this as a planet. What are you going to tell them? Admiral Grant asked as Jake turned back to his team. That we're going to give those aliens the most unexpected response in galactic history. Back on the alien flagship, Vexthara waited for the human response. He expected panic, desperate negotiations, or perhaps a futile attempt to mobilize their primitive military. He had seen it all before. What he got instead would change everything. The United Nations emergency session lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in New York while the alien ships hung silently in the sky above them. The debate was heated, with some countries wanting to surrender immediately and others demanding they fight to the end. President Jake Morrison stood at the podium, looking out at the faces of world leaders. We all know our situation, he said. We face an enemy we cannot defeat through traditional warfare. But that doesn't mean we have no options. The Russian President Viktor Petrov raised his hand. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Morrison? Something that has never been tried before in human history, Jake replied. We're going to challenge them to a competition instead of a war. The room erupted in confused voices. The Chinese Premier Li Wei stood up. You want us to play games with aliens who could destroy our planet? Not games, Jake said firmly. Challenges. Tests of skill, intelligence, creativity, and strength. We make it about proving who is the better species, not about who can kill more efficiently. Dr. Amy Rodriguez stepped forward to address the assembly. We've analyzed their communication patterns extensively. The Zephyrians are a warrior culture, but they're also bound by honor codes. If we frame this correctly, their pride won't allow them to refuse. The Brazilian president, Carlos Santos, looks skeptical. And if they say no? If they just decide to destroy us anyway? And then we're no worse off than we are now, Jake answered. But if they say yes, we buy time, we learn about them, and we might just find a way to survive? The Indian Prime Minister, Priya Sharma, leaned forward. What kind of challenges are you thinking about? Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a presentation on the main screen. Physical contests, intellectual puzzles, technological innovation, strategic thinking, and cultural expression. We choose our best people in each area and compete directly with theirs. And if we lose? Asked the Japanese Prime Minister, Hiroshi Tanaka. If we lose, we surrender with honor, Jake said. But if we win, they have to leave our solar system and never return. The German Chancellor, Klaus Müller, shook his head. This is insane. We're betting the future of humanity on a series of contests. We're betting the future of humanity on being human, Jake corrected. On showing them that we're not just another species to conquer, we're something different, something worth respecting. The vote was close, but it passed. Within hours, Earth's response was ready to transmit to the alien fleet. High Commander Vextara received the human message while reviewing battle plans with his officers. He read it once, then read it again, his yellow eyes growing wider with each word. "Sub-Commander Kreeth," he called out. "Come here and tell me what you think this means." Kreeth approached and read the message on his commander's screen. His face showed the same confusion. "Sir, I believe the humans are challenging us to a series of competitions." "Competitions," Vexthara repeated slowly. "They receive a declaration of war from the most powerful military force in the galaxy, and they respond with a challenge to compete?" "It appears so, sir." Vexthara stood up and began pacing around the bridge. His officers watched nervously. They had served under him for years and knew that his calm moments were often the most dangerous. "In 3,000 years of conquest," he said finally, "how many species have responded to our war declaration with a counter-proposal?" "None, sir," Kreeth replied. "How many have suggested alternatives to traditional warfare?" "None, sir." "How many have shown the audacity to believe they could defeat us in any kind of contest?" "None, sir." Vexthara stopped pacing and turned to face his bridge crew. "These humans are either the most foolish species we have ever encountered or the most confident. I am curious to discover which." He walked back to his command chair and sat down. "What does our intelligence tell us about their capabilities?" Captain Zorak, the intelligence officer, stepped forward. "They are remarkably diverse for a single species, sir. They have different skin colors, languages, and cultures, yet they somehow work together. Their technology is primitive, but they show unusual creativity in how they use it." "Examples?" "They have sent machines to other planets using chemical rockets, inefficient but effective. They have created a global communication network using their planet's electromagnetic field. Again, primitive, but clever. They have even begun to manipulate their own genetic code, though they are very early in that process." Vexthara nodded slowly. "And militarily?" "They fight constantly among themselves, sir. Small wars, regional conflicts, even global wars. But they also show remarkable cooperation when facing common threats. Their military technology is centuries behind ours, but they have developed some interesting tactical approaches, such as they seem to excel at unconventional warfare. Surprise attacks, psychological operations, using their environment as a weapon. They also show unusual determination. Some of their soldiers will fight to the death rather than surrender, even when the cause is hopeless." Sub-Commander Kreeth spoke up. "Sir, perhaps we should simply destroy them and move on. This delay serves no military purpose." Vexthara considered this. The logical choice was obvious. Earth's defenses were pathetic. Their fleet could reduce the planet to rubble in a matter of hours. It would be quick, efficient, and would send a clear message to other species in the galaxy, but something about the human response intrigued him. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that responded to certain death with what seemed like curiosity rather than fear. "No," he said finally, "we will accept their challenge." The bridge fell silent. Several officers exchanged glances of surprise. "Sir?" Kreeth asked carefully. "They want to prove they are worthy of survival through competition rather than warfare." "Very well, we will give them that opportunity. But when they fail, as they surely will, their defeat will be total and absolute." He activated his communications system. "Open a channel to the human fleet." "Sir, they don't have a fleet," Captain Zorak pointed out. "Then open a channel to their planet." The communication link was established within minutes. President Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, along with several other human leaders. "I am High Commander Vexthara of the Zephyrian Empire," he announced. "We have received your unusual proposal. And what is your response? Morrison asked. Vexthara smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. We accept your challenge. 10 contests. As you have suggested, the winner of each contest scores 1 point. The species with the most points claims total victory. The loser submits completely to the winner's terms. Agreed, Morrison said without hesitation. However, Vexthara continued, you should understand what you are risking. If you lose, humanity will become slaves to the Zephyrian Empire. Your planet will be stripped of resources. Your people will serve us until the end of time. And if we win, Morrison asked, then the Zephyrian Empire will leave your solar system and never return. You will have our word of honor on this, Morrison nodded. We accept those terms. Vexthara leaned back in his chair. Excellent. You have 7 of your days to prepare. Choose your champions wisely, humans. You will need them. The communication ended, and the bridge remained quiet for several moments. Finally, Crate spoke. Sir, was that wise? We have never agreed to such terms before. Vexthara's smile grew wider. Think of it as entertainment, Sub-Commander. Besides, there is no possible way these primitive creatures can defeat us. This will simply make their eventual surrender more satisfying. But deep down, something told him that the humans had just changed the rules of the game in ways he didn't yet understand. The 7 days passed quickly. Earth's governments worked together like never before, selecting their best people for each competition. The aliens had provided a list of 10 contests, ranging from physical combat to technological innovation. Both sides would compete in a specially constructed arena that appeared overnight in the Nevada desert. Captain Steve Murphy stood in the Human Preparation Center, looking at his team of champions. He was a former Navy SEAL who had later become an Olympic coordinator. His job was to lead Earth's representatives and make sure they were ready for whatever the aliens threw at them. Remember, he told his team, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're showing the entire galaxy what humans can do when we work together. The first contest was hand-to-hand combat. The rules were simple. 1 fighter from each species, no weapons, fight until one surrenders or cannot continue. The Zephyrians had chosen their champion Gorthuk, a massive warrior who stood nearly 8 feet tall. His forearms were covered in scars from countless battles, and his yellow eyes showed no mercy. Earth's champion was Carlos Martinez, a mixed martial arts fighter from Mexico. He was average height for a human, about 6 feet tall with dark hair and kind eyes. Next to the alien warrior, he looked tiny. You sure about this, Carlos? Steve asked as they walked toward the arena. Carlos grinned. I've been fighting bigger guys my whole life. Size isn't everything. The arena was a circular platform about 50 feet across, surrounded by force fields that would contain the fight. Thousands of aliens watched from floating platforms above, while millions of humans watched on television screens around the world. High Commander Vexthara sat in his observation box, confident in his champion's abilities. This will be over quickly, he told Sub-Commander Crete H. Gorthuk has never lost a combat. The fight began with a loud horn blast. Gorthuk immediately charged forward, using all 4 arms to try to grab Carlos, but the human was ready. He ducked under the alien's reaching arms and delivered a quick punch to Gorthuk's midsection. The alien barely felt it. He swung 2 of his arms down toward Carlos, who rolled sideways and came up behind the larger fighter. Carlos wrapped his arms around one of Gorthuk's legs and pulled, trying to take him down. What is he doing? Vexthara asked, leaning forward in his seat. He appears to be trying to wrestle with Gorthuk, Crete replied, sounding confused. For the next 15 minutes, Carlos used every trick he had learned in 20 years of fighting. He couldn't overpower the alien, but he could tire him out. He stayed close, making it hard for Gorthuk to use his reach advantage. He targeted the alien's joints and pressure points. Most importantly, he stayed calm while his opponent grew more and more frustrated. Gorthuk was used to ending fights quickly with his superior strength. He had never faced an opponent who simply refused to be overpowered. Every time he thought he had Carlos trapped, the human would slip away and attack from a different angle. Impossible, Vexthara muttered as he watched his champion struggle. The turning point came when Gorthok overextended himself trying to land a powerful blow. Carlos grabbed two of the alien's arms and used his momentum against him, throwing the massive warrior to the ground. Before Gorthok could recover, Carlos had him in a submission hold called a rear naked choke. "I can't breathe," Gorthok gasped in his own language. "Do you surrender?" Carlos asked, speaking the alien words he had learned during preparation. Gorthok struggled for a few more seconds, then tapped the ground with one of his free hands. "I surrender." The human section of the arena erupted in cheers. Carlos helped Gorthok to his feet and bowed respectfully to his opponent. The alien warrior looked confused but returned the bow. "First point to Earth," announced the contest judge. "A neutral alien from another species." The second contest was strategic thinking. Each side had to command a simulated space battle using holographic displays. The Zephyrians chose their best military strategist, General Quinder, a veteran of dozens of real space battles. Earth's representative was Helen Parker, a chess grandmaster who had also served as a military advisor. She was a quiet woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. "A game player against a real general?" Vextara scoffed. "This is becoming ridiculous." The battle simulation began with both sides commanding identical fleets. The objective was to destroy the enemy's command ship while protecting your own. General Quinder immediately began implementing standard Zephyrian battle tactics, using his superior knowledge of space warfare, but Helen had a different approach. Instead of trying to match the alien's military experience, she treated the simulation like a giant chess game. She sacrificed smaller ships to gain strategic positions, used unexpected movements to confuse her opponent, and gradually built up advantages in key areas. "What is she doing?" Quinder asked his assistants as Helen's fleet made what seemed like random movements. "She's setting traps," one of them replied. "Each move creates multiple threats." The alien general found himself responding to Helen's moves instead of implementing his own strategy. Every time he tried to attack, she had already prepared a counterattack. When he tried to defend, she found weaknesses he didn't know existed. The simulation ended when Helen's remaining ships surrounded Quinder's command vessel. He had been so focused on traditional military tactics that he never saw the unconventional strategy developing around him. "Second point to Earth," the judge announced. The third contest was technological innovation. Each side had to create something new using provided materials and tools. The Zephyrians built an impressive energy weapon that could destroy targets from great distances. Earth's team, led by engineer Danny Kim, took a completely different approach. They created a device that could take any form of energy and convert it into useful power. It was smaller than the alien weapon, less flashy, but infinitely more practical. "It's not a weapon," Danny explained to the judges. "It's a tool. It can power cities, spacecraft, or communication networks. It turns destruction into creation." The neutral judges were impressed. While the Zephyrian weapon was powerful, the human device was revolutionary. It could change how civilizations used energy throughout the galaxy. "Third point to Earth," the judge announced, in his observation box. Vextara stared at the scoreboard in disbelief. 3 contests? 3 human victories? Around him, his officers looked worried. "How is this possible?" he asked aloud. Sub-commander Crete H studied the human competitors. "They're not fighting the way we expected, sir. They're not trying to overpower us. They're using different methods." "Different methods?" The combat fighter used technique instead of strength. The strategist used unpredictability instead of military doctrine. The engineer focused on usefulness instead of power. Vextara was quiet for a long moment. "Are you saying they're smarter than us?" "Not smarter, sir, different. They think about problems in ways we never considered." Down in the arena, Captain Murphy gathered his team for a quick meeting. "Great job, everyone. But don't get overconfident. We've surprised them, but they'll adapt. The next contests will be harder." Carlos wiped sweat from his face. "That big guy was tougher than he looked. I barely won." "You won because you fought smart, not hard," Helen said. That's what we need to keep doing, Danny nodded. They're expecting us to compete on their terms. But we win when we change the rules, Steve looked up at the alien observers. They're watching us now, really watching. They're starting to understand that humans might be more than they thought. The scoreboard showed Earth leading 3-0, but 7 contests remained. The aliens were proud warriors who had conquered galaxies. They wouldn't give up easily, but for the first time in 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire was facing opponents who didn't fight back the way they expected, and that was making all the difference. The 4th contest was endurance. The challenge was simple but brutal: survive in a harsh environment for as long as possible. The arena transformed into a freezing wasteland with howling winds and temperatures that dropped far below what most species could handle. The Zephyrians had chosen their champion carefully. Warmaster Thekmer was genetically modified for extreme conditions. His body could regulate temperature, slow down his metabolism, and survive without food or water for weeks. He had been bred specifically for this type of challenge. Earth's representative was Linda Thompson, a survival expert from Alaska. She was a small woman with weathered hands and steady eyes. She had spent years living in the wilderness, but she had never faced anything like this. You can do this, Linda, Captain Murphy said as she prepared for the contest. Remember, it's not about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest. The contest began at dawn. Both contestants were placed in the frozen arena with only basic survival gear. The temperature was -40 degrees and dropping. The wind cut through clothing like knives. Thekmer immediately began using his genetic advantages. His skin changed color to absorb more heat from the weak sunlight. His breathing slowed to conserve energy. He found a sheltered spot and settled in to wait. Confident that his modifications would outlast any normal biological creature, Linda took a different approach. She immediately began moving, gathering materials from the environment. She built a small shelter using pieces of ice and debris. She created a fire using friction and dried materials she found under the snow. Most importantly, she kept active, exercising regularly to maintain her body temperature. What is she doing? Vexthara asked, watching Linda work constantly while Thekmer remained still. She's fighting the environment instead of enduring it, Kreeth observed. Hours passed. Thekmer's genetic modifications worked perfectly. He felt number cold, no hunger, no discomfort, but Linda's constant activity was keeping her warm and alert. She had turned survival into an active process rather than a passive one. The turning point came 12 hours into the contest. Thekmer's modifications began to fail. His body had been designed for short-term extreme conditions, not extended exposure. His metabolism started to speed up as his system tried to compensate for the prolonged stress. Linda, meanwhile, had created a small but effective survival camp. She had food, water, fire, and shelter. She was tired, but she was also prepared for a long contest. After 18 hours, Thekmer collapsed. His genetic modifications had burned out, leaving him more vulnerable than a normal Zephyrian. Linda helped him to safety and shared her fire to warm him up. 4th point to the Zephyrians, the judge announced. The human observers cheered anyway. Linda had lost, but she had shown incredible skill and had even helped her opponent when he was in trouble. Finally, Vexthara said with relief, at least one of our champions knows how to win. The 5th contest was cultural expression. Each side had to create something that represented their civilization at its best. The Zephyrians chose to present their greatest war song, a piece of music that had inspired their warriors for centuries. The performance was magnificent. A chorus of 100 Zephyrian warriors sang in perfect harmony, their voices echoing across the arena. The song told the story of their empire, their victories, their honor. It was powerful, beautiful, and terrifying at the same time. That was impressive, Captain Murphy admitted as the alien performance ended. Earth's representative was Maria Santos, an artist and composer from Brazil. She had spent the week working with people from around the world to create something special. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, I present the story of humanity. What followed was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The presentation combined music, visual art, dance, and poetry from every culture on Earth. Children from different countries sang together in their native languages. Artists painted a giant mural while musicians played. Dancers from every continent performed together. The piece told the story of humanity's journey from early cave paintings to space exploration. It showed wars and peace, struggles and triumphs, individual achievements and collective efforts. But most importantly, it showed how different human cultures had learned to work together. The climax came when the entire human team joined the performance. Scientists, soldiers, artists, and leaders all took part in creating something beautiful together. Even Carlos, the fighter from the first contest, played a small drum while Helen, the chess player, recited poetry. The alien audience watched in complete silence. Many of them had never seen anything like cooperative art. In their culture, individual achievement was everything. The idea of hundreds of people working together to create something greater than any one person could make alone was completely foreign to them. "What are they doing?" Vexthara asked quietly. "They're showing us who they are," Kreith replied. "All of them, together." When the performance ended, the arena was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, some of the alien observers began to applaud. The sound spread through the crowd until everyone was clapping. Several of the alien judges were visibly moved. One of them, an elderly being from a peaceful species, had tears in his eyes. "Fifth point to Earth," the judge announced. The score was. Now Earth 4, Zephyrians 1. The sixth contest was mathematics and logic. Earth chose Professor Rachel Kim, a brilliant mathematician from South Korea. The Zephyrians selected logic master Vornth, whose species had been solving mathematical problems for thousands of years. The contest involved solving increasingly complex mathematical equations under time pressure. Both contestants were remarkably skilled, but Vornth's advanced brain structure gave him a significant advantage. He could process multiple calculations simultaneously while Rachel had to work through problems step by step. 6 point to the Zephyrians, the judge announced after Vornth solved the final equation 3 minutes before Rachel. The seventh contest was speed and agility. The Zephyrians chose Scout Runner Kylt H, a being whose species could move faster than human eyes could follow. Earth's representative was Trackstar Jamie Robinson, who held several world records but was clearly outmatched by alien biology. The race wasn't even close. Kylt H finished the obstacle course in half the time it took Jamie. 7.2. The Zephyrians, the judge announced. The score was now Earth 4, Zephyrians 3. The eighth contest was memory and information processing. The Zephyrians brought memory keeper Karth, who could perfectly recall every detail of his 1,000-year life. Earth chose Lisa Chun, a librarian with an incredible ability to organize and remember information. The contest involved memorizing and recalling vast amounts of data. Karth's advantage was obvious from the start. His species had evolved to be living libraries, storing information for their entire civilization. 8th point to the Zephyrians, the judge announced. The score was tied 4-4. "This is better," Vexthara sighed, though he sounded less confident than before. "We're showing them that Zephyrian superiority is not just about military might." Captain Murphy gathered his team as they prepared for the 9th contest. 2 contests left, he said. "We need to win both to avoid a tie." "What happens if we tie?" Carlos asked. "Then we have a final sudden death challenge," Steve replied. "Winner takes all." The 9th contest was problem-solving under pressure. Both teams were presented with a complex scenario. A space station was failing, and they had to figure out how to save the crew using limited resources. The Zephyrians approached the problem methodically, using their advanced technical knowledge to find a solution. Earth's team, led by engineer Danny Kim, took a more creative approach, combining multiple simple solutions to create something innovative. Both teams succeeded. But the human solution was more efficient and could be implemented with fewer resources. 9th point to Earth, the judge announced. The score was Earth 5, Zephyrians 4. 1 contest remained. The final challenge would determine the fate of both species. In his observation box, Vexthara stared at the scoreboard with growing concern. His empire had never been in this position before. They had always won through superior strength and technology. But these humans were proving that there were other ways to be superior. "Sir," Kreith said quietly, "regardless of what happens, in the final contest, these humans have earned our respect." Vexthara nodded slowly. "Yes, they have. But respect won't save them if they lose." The 10th and final contest was about to begin. The final contest was announced as the most important of all: leadership and wisdom. Each side would choose their greatest leader to solve a complex problem that would test their ability to govern and make difficult decisions. The scenario was presented by the neutral judges. Both species must work together to govern a new colony world. The planet has resources both sides need, but the environment is dangerous. Your task is to create a system of government that will allow both humans and Zephyrians to live together peacefully and prosperously. High Commander Vexthara stepped forward as the Zephyrian representative. He was their greatest military leader, a being who had commanded fleets across the galaxy. His experience in conquest and rule made him the obvious choice. Earth chose captain Steve Murphy. He was not a politician or a king, but he had proven himself as a leader throughout the competitions. More importantly, he understood both species better than anyone else after spending a week observing the aliens. "This is it," President Morrison said from the human observation area. "Everything depends on this." The two leaders were given 4 hours to develop their governance plans. They worked in separate rooms, each with access to advisors and computers. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath as they worked. Vexthara's approach was systematic and logical. He drew upon 3,000 years of Zephyrian experience in ruling conquered worlds. His plan established clear hierarchies with Zephyrians in leadership positions due to their superior technology and military strength. Humans would serve in supporting roles, contributing their labor and creativity, while the Zephyrians provided protection and advanced knowledge. The plan was efficient, organized, and based on proven methods. It addressed every practical concern: resource distribution, security, administration, and conflict resolution. It was exactly what the Zephyrian Empire had used successfully on dozens of worlds. Steve took a completely different approach. Instead of trying to establish who was in charge, he focused on how both species could contribute their unique strengths. His plan created joint councils where humans and Zephyrians would work together as equals. Each species would lead in areas where they excelled, with humans handling creativity, innovation, and cultural matters, while Zephyrians managed technology, defense, and logistics. His plan was more complex and harder to implement, but it was based on cooperation rather than domination. It recognized that both species had valuable contributions to make. "Time is up," announced the lead judge. "Present your solutions." Vexthara went first. He stood confidently before the panel of judges, his plan displayed on screens around the arena. "The Zephyrian solution is based on 3 millennia of successful governance," he began. "We establish clear command structures with proven leaders in control. Humans will contribute their unique abilities while benefiting from Zephyrian protection and technology. Order, efficiency, and stability are guaranteed." His presentation was flawless. Every detail had been considered, every potential problem addressed. The plan would work exactly as he described. "The human solution," Steve began, when his turn came, "is based on the idea that we're stronger together than apart." His plan appeared on the screens, showing interconnected councils, shared responsibilities, and joint decision-making processes. "This is more complex than simple hierarchy," he continued, "but it allows both species to contribute their best qualities. Humans bring creativity, adaptability, and innovation. Zephyrians bring strength, technology, and experience. Together we can build something neither species could create alone." The judges deliberated for what felt like hours. The arena was completely silent as both species waited for the verdict that would determine their futures. Finally, the lead judge stood up. Both plans show remarkable thought and consideration. The Zephyrian plan is efficient, practical, and based on proven success. The human plan is innovative, inclusive, and shows great vision for the future. He paused, looking at both leaders. However, this contest is about more than just creating a working government. It is about wisdom, about understanding what makes a civilization truly great. The judge turned to address the entire arena. The Zephyrian plan would work, but it treats one species as superior to the other. The human plan is more difficult to implement, but it recognizes that true strength comes from unity, not domination. The winner of the 10th contest, and therefore the overall competition, is Earth. The human sections of the arena erupted in celebration. People around the world danced in the streets, cried with relief, and hugged complete strangers. They had done the impossible. They had defeated a galactic empire without firing a single shot. But the most surprising reaction came from the Zephyrian observers. Instead of anger or shame, High Commander Vexthara began to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the arena. "In 3,000 years of conquest," he said, his voice carrying across the silent arena, "we have never been defeated by an enemy who made us enjoy the experience." He walked over to Steve and extended one of his 4 hands. "Captain Murphy, you have shown us something we never expected to see. You have proven that there are ways to be strong that we never considered." Steve shook the alien commander's hand. "We didn't want to defeat you, Commander. We wanted to show you that we could be partners instead of enemies." Vexthara nodded slowly. "And you have succeeded beyond your wildest dreams." The formal surrender ceremony was held the next day, but it was unlike any surrender in galactic history. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, Earth proposed an alliance. The Zephyrian Empire would share their advanced technology and provide protection for human colonies, while humans would share their approaches to innovation, creativity, and cooperative problem-solving. "You could have demanded our complete submission," Vexthara said during the ceremony. "Instead, you offer partnership. This is wisdom we did not expect to find among the stars." Within months, the first joint human-Zephyrian research stations were established. Human creativity combined with Zephyrian technology produced innovations that amazed the galaxy. The partnership was so successful that other species began requesting similar cooperative agreements. The Galactic Council established the competition. Protocols allowing civilizations to settle disputes through contests rather than warfare. The arena in Nevada became a permanent facility where species could prove their worth through skill and creativity instead of violence. Years later, Admiral Grant would write in her memoirs, "We faced certain destruction and turned it into unprecedented opportunity. We showed the galaxy that humans don't just survive, we transform everything we touch into something better." The Zephyrian Empire had declared war on humanity, expecting a quick and easy conquest. Instead, they received the most absurd response possible: a challenge to prove their worth through competition rather than violence. In the end, both species won. The Zephyrians learned that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. Humans learned that they could face any challenge by being true to their nature, creative, adaptable, and united. The galaxy would never be the same, and it was all because humanity had refused to accept that war was the only answer to conflict. The most absurd response had become the most brilliant victory in galactic history.